Welcome back, everybody. Friggin' Good Politics. It's Greg and Derek with our very special guest this week, Steve Outhouse. Thank you very much for being with us, Steve.
Thanks for coming, Steve. Special guest episode. You're the best.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So a lot of people may have heard of Steve before. He's been involved in some federal leadership races. He's been involved in the with the PC Party of Nova Scotia, PEI, New Brunswick, and a lot of other things in between. But I don't want to tell your story, Steve. I want you to begin by telling us your story. How did you get into this world in the first place?
Before Steve gets into it, I got to say nice things about Steve. I do this
Oh,
for all
okay.
our
All right.
guests.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Steve is one of the best campaign managers in the country. He's done municipal campaigns, national leadership campaigns. He's done nomination campaigns, provincial campaigns, local candidate winning campaigns. There's been a lot of things he has done, and you should hire Steve if you ever need a campaign manager. He or his
Yes.
team, justcampaigns.ca. We're going to get the plug out right away, Steve,
Yeah.
so people
Thanks.
make sure they know that they can hire you. And he's fantastic to work with. We worked together on a few different things, and it's always been a great experience. Great man of values and character, and so highly recommended by your very own Derek
Thanks,
Robinson.
Derek.
So let me get that out there. But yes, please go into your background, Steve. How did you become part of this crazy world of politics and campaign management? Give us your story.
Yeah. Well, it certainly wasn't intentional, and thanks again for having me. Appreciate that and
Of
the kind
course.
words. And it was like honestly, I turned down campaign management the first time it was ever offered to me.
Oh.
Folks may remember MP Randy Camp, who was
Hmm.
the Conservative MP in British Columbia. I believe it's Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows was the riding name at the time. It's
Mhm.
shifted, I think, a few times since then. But he approached me. I was a staffer, so I came not out of the political world. I actually came out of the public service, the federal public service. And when Prime
Oh,
Minister
okay.
Harper and the Conservative Party were elected in 2006, I was asked to go upstairs for a couple weeks to just help support the new minister until he could get his staff in place. And it was a gentleman by the name of Loyola Hearn, who was our Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. And I was not so secretly, excited that the Conservatives had won, and I think some of my colleagues knew that, and so they thought it'd be kind of a fun opportunity for me. So I went up to I worked in the communications field and media relations, and so
Mhm.
I stepped in to be kind of the interim or temporary press secretary to just help out for a couple weeks until Minister Hearn got his staff in place. He was from Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm from Atlantic Canada as well. We hit it off really well, and he ended up asking me to stay on
Hmm.
as staff. And that was a pleasant surprise. And my wife and I talked about it and said, yeah, you know what? Leave of absence for a year from the other job. We can try anything for a year. Well, that's now 19 years ago, and we're still
That's how it works.
politics
It's
Not
in your
bad.
blood
renew
now.
Yeah.
year by year basis. So uh, I'll try to make it very, brief, but I mean, in short, I thought I was going to be able to go back to my job, but I had to have a choice to go back to the public service or stay in the political realm as what they call exempt ministerial staff. And as frustrated as I was at the time with HR for giving me the wrong advice, I chose to stay in the political world. I
Hmm.
loved what we were doing. It was a lot more fun and rewarding, and you were close to the decision making, kind of
Yeah.
nexus of an organization.
Yeah.
And so I chose to give up my public service job and pension and benefits and all that, and get into the political world. And
Big choice.
that first
Yeah.
campaign in 2008 was my first campaign really ever, apart from a few minor things before that. But this was the first one I really dove in, and I went to Newfoundland for the campaign, and that was during the anybody but conservative
Hmm.
time where Premier Williams and Prime Minister Harper were not. Things weren't clicking super well
Oh,
between
they were
both of
fighting.
those.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could describe it that way. I could see that. Fair
That's how I
description.
remember it.
Yeah, and so I went to Newfoundland and stayed with my friend David, who's now I have to call him Senator David Wells.
Oh,
I stayed in his spare
Nice.
room And we're one of just a few people who were willing to and able to work on the campaigns in Newfoundland and Labrador. And I did comms for all 7 of those campaigns. Anyway, long
Hmm.
story short, then I stepped out after the election. I went to work in my church for a while, but was doing kind of short-term political help, different ministers' offices. Came back into government. Randy Camp had asked me to manage his campaign,
Hmm.
and I said no. It was just I didn't think I was qualified. I didn't know what
Right.
to do. I didn't think I would serve him well in that regard, and so I didn't. And then kind of fast forward a few years, I did come back into the government in 2011 when we had our majority. And 2015 was the first campaign management I did with it was our MP Royal Gallipo here in Orleans, which is the riding I live in Ontario, just east of Ottawa. And I was beyond nervous. I was,
Yeah.
wanted to help and I wanted to offer, but I didn't know what to do. I had a, good friend, Dan White, who sat down with me. He'd managed lots of campaigns and he just talked me through the basics and kind of got me up
Hmm.
and running. And I did it, and I didn't do it perfectly, and that was the big wave that sort of washed our government out at that point in time. So
Yep.
we did not win. We were not close. But I kind of was able to
That
dip
was
my
the
toe in the
Trudeau
water
wave?
and say,
Are you talking Trudeau wave?
that was the truth. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Baptism by
we got
fire.
to, that was the first time I got to watch my job, disappear on live television. And,
Yeah. Oh
it's funny
gosh.
because, people, when they watch elections, I think just overall think there's like 2 people at the top and they just change offices. But the reality is, I mean, there's hundreds of staffers and people whose
Yeah.
lives are all intertwined in this, and off we went. So, that was my first
Hmm.
foray into campaign management. And I thought at that point in time, well, it was fun, it was good to do, but next I'll help out again in 2019 when the next election is. I'll volunteer somewhere, and I'm
Yeah.
done with politics for now. And then Prime Minister Harper stepped down and there was a race to replace him, and
Mhm.
I ended up being asked to manage the campaign for a gentleman named Pierre Lemieux, who was
Oh
running
yeah.
for leadership. And leading a national campaign was even more daunting, and I tried my best to get out of it a number of times and hand it to someone more experienced. But and that's really where it sort of switched on for me, because that's where I'm very organized and love systems
Mhm.
and sort of the gamification of you're selling memberships and you're looking at different ridings and how this is all doing. So we outperformed, I think, what people were expecting Pierre to do, and he finished, I believe, 7th on the first ballot. Out of, I don't know, we had like 25 or 30 people running
Yeah. There were
for
so many.
leader
That was a
in
crazy
that one.
leadership.
It was, I think that was the real longest ballot out there.
Yeah.
And then once that was done, I said, okay, well, now I'm done with politics. And then someone approached me about leading a leadership campaign in Nova Scotia for the PCs there, a gentleman by the name of John Lohr. And then I had a friend running for the PC leadership in PEI, Sean Driscoll. I helped him. And I was doing a bunch of nominations for people. And all of a sudden, like, kind of before I knew it, this is sort of what I was doing a lot.
Right.
And then 2019, the federal election happened. And then that was done. And I thought, okay, there we go. No
Finally,
more.
get me
Oh,
out.
I'll get back to this career path of being a communications, person that I thought I would do. And then that's when Andrew Scheer stepped down and the leadership race began. And I had talked with several candidates about getting involved potentially, and ended up working with Dr. Leslyn Lewis.
Yeah.
And that
Mhm.
was that was sort of a breakthrough, campaign for me. And
You kind
again,
of
we
become
exceeded
you
expectations.
you sort of became famous, I would say, in that election because Leslin sort of came
Yeah.
out of nowhere, like from obscurity to almost winning the
Yeah.
thing,
Yes.
versus Aaron O'Toole. So that was like, how was that? Was that kind of the most exciting one, would you say?
Yeah, well, I mean, uh, I guess probably fast forwarding a little bit, winning an actual campaign was
Yeah.
actually maybe the most exciting,
Right,
but
right. The
this one
Alberta
was
one. Yeah.
this certainly was, yeah, it was lightning in a bottle. And it was,
Yeah.
obviously Leslyn's a fantastic candidate, and she was new to the scene. And so I jumped in first as a volunteer just to help and make sure she could get on the ballot, and we would do our best. And then it's just gained steam, and things, it was
Yeah.
obviously very exciting to see how that how that went. I will dispute whether I'm famous on that. I think that we're into a very niche market,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
but but yes, for those who follow this type of thing, perhaps that would be where they would know me from.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
conservative circles, it was a big deal
That's
for
where
sure.
I first heard about you for sure.
Right.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And I remember we talked a little bit during that campaign
We
for
did.
various reasons. And that's how we first kind of got to know each other, which was cool.
That's
So
right.
let's jump forward a bit. I know you were part of this recent federal election. You're running some campaigns for that, which is exciting. But take us to Alberta. That was a
Mhm.
big win, and you kind of went into that campaign behind. And I remember I worked on that campaign with you too, and I was one of your vendors. And I thought it was very well run. Like that was one of the best campaigns I've ever been a part of. So just talk about the scale of a large province like Alberta and a
Yeah.
provincial election there, what it took.
Yeah, so it was so kind of after Leslyn's first run, and then we went again in 2022, and obviously Pierre had a pretty resounding victory in
Yeah.
that situation. I was connected with folks in Premier Smith's office who were looking to set up their campaign team. She had just she won her leadership just after the federal leadership.
Yeah.
Then had her by-election almost immediately in Brooks Medicine Hat. I went out just to kind of help a friend do some GOTV there, and managed to make the connection and so on. And I was asked just to do some meetings and conversations with people about potentially getting involved. And yeah, we went through that process, and it was great. And went through kind of talking with campaign co-chairs and then, members of her core team, and then ultimately up to the boss. Just a quick story there. When I went to Edmonton to kind of interview for the job,
Hmm.
it'd been a while since I'd interviewed for a job, and I started to get kind of nervous. And I didn't, know
Yeah.
what to. I was like, oh my land. And of course, I'm like sitting alone in a room. It's a private room in a restaurant, and like people are going to be coming in, and I'm on display, and I'm the one person who's not part of this circle. And so I start to look at the menu, and I'm like, what am I going to order? And they're probably going to pay. You don't want to order something too much or too showy or whatever.
Surf and turf.
And
Surf
so
and turf.
Yeah.
first thing, yeah, that's right. Yeah, how many lobsters do you have back there? Uh,
Yeah.
so the first thing on the menu was like chicken Alfredo or something. Perfect. That's
Yeah.
Sure,
easy
whatever.
peasy, like no problem. So I've decided already before this starts, and then we start to chat. Eventually, everyone gives their order. And I'm going along, and I'm getting a bit more my feet underneath me, and the nerves are starting to go away. And then the door opens, and in walks this person with a cart, and they're like, "Who ordered the Alfredo?" And I'm like, "Well, me." And they're like, "Great. Well, if I got a show for you,"
Oh
and this
man.
massive block of cheese, which she is like pouring alcohol in and lighting on fire,
What?
and it's like now everyone is staring at my Alfredo being made in front of the whole room, and it's just like it's a show, and things are being cut, and tossed, and flaming, and
I
I
love
just like,
this.
do you have like a grilled cheese or something? Like, can I just please
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
out
a
of this?
simple man here.
Yeah,
I'll take
Yeah.
that's right.
some chicken fingers. Do the old chicken fingers and fries
And a
that your
block
grandma
of
would order.
cheese, I just don't eat it.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
but taking stock of where we were at that point in time, after I would, we managed to get through that and was offered the position. It was taking stock of where we were in the polls, and at that point in time, there was a double-digit deficit, behind the
Yeah. It's
NDP,
bad. Yep.
Yeah.
and starting the research about, what voters were concerned about, and uh, what would move their votes, what doesn't move their votes, what things were working against us, what things were working against the NDP. We did all that and focus groups as quickly as we could, and start to take stock, and
Hmm.
and and started to build the team. And obviously, you were part of that, Derek, and others, and um, very much, for me. I mean, when you come into as an outsider, I mean, I make it very clear, like I don't know the local issues as well. But
Hmm.
what my strength is sort of is team building and putting the right people and processes in
Yep.
place.
Yep.
I adopt very much a Moneyball approach of, just give me the right person who can,
Yeah.
get
Get
on
on base.
base and just get the
Great
job
movie.
done. Yes, fantastic. Like it actually
Love
has,
that movie.
shaped my thinking on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily looking for the big, showiest, most expensive stars that are out there. I'm looking for people who are going to come in and be part of the team, Character, competence, and chemistry. Stole that from a book at one point in time,
Hmm.
from now a disgraced leader. But the book itself, I think, holds up. And
Solid principle.
Which book are
yeah,
we
so
talking
yeah.
about? Which
What's
book?
that?
Which book are we talking about?
Uh, well, I mean, I don't know. Now that I've called someone disgraced on the internet, I don't know if that's a
Okay.
smart one. But maybe we can put it in the notes
We'll
later
put in the
if
show
that's
notes,
Yeah, we'll put
maybe.
in
I
the
don't
show
want to get
notes as
you.
an Easter egg.
Yeah. So, character, competence, and chemistry. People are going to do what they say they're going to do. They've got the skills to get it done, and they're pleasant to work with. And if we can kind of build that team, I like to have a no drama approach. There's enough,
Mhm.
enough fighting and arguing and everything that's got to go on in a campaign. Kind of when you're with your opponents
Mhm.
and the outside world, and there's all sorts of things going on. As much as possible, we try to keep it, as a solid team unit inside. It's not always possible,
Yeah.
for sure. Like there's tensions, there's different views, there's all sorts of things, and that's fine. But at least on a fundamental level is where we try to be.
Okay, let me ask you
Yeah.
about the Alberta campaign because it leads into one of our questions of just how do you keep yourself grounded and not burnt out in these
Hmm.
situations? Because they're all consuming. You're working literally all
Yeah.
day. It's like you get up early, you go to bed late, you do it all again the next day, at least 6 days a week, if not seven. So in the Alberta election, I remember that because, there was a lot of things that Premier Smith said that came out every single day of the election. So it was kind of, you got punched in the face every morning, and if he would release something else from her past, whether it's on the radio show or whatnot. How did you stay grounded in that campaign, and what sort of tips do you have for people to not burn out in these situations and to keep going and stay level?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple things just to quickly address like the things coming out from the past. I mean, this was clearly a tactic which was unsuccessful in the end. And
It
I
was,
think
yeah.
that, yes, it was an attempted attack, but really what was kind of happening was they were playing to their own base after a while. I mean, yes, there were
Yeah.
some people who were still making up their own mind, but I mean, essentially, I think we've moved into a realm now where people are not. It used to be you could find one questionable remark that someone made on social
Mhm.
media a decade ago or 5 years ago or whatever, and it would, everyone would clutch their pearls, and that's that. And now, for good or for not, there's a collective shrug, where people are just like, just tell me what you're going to do when you're governing. And I think she was,
Yeah.
we were able to kind of push past that. So that's secondary. But in terms of your direct question about not burning out, like first of all, I just like to say I mean I can tell you things, mostly from experiencing them the bad way. Like I'm
Mhm.
not good at this. I have, when people ask me, what do you want in life, or what can I pray for you? I'm, different, people of that bent. I'm like, for balance. Balance would be great. Let's pray for balance. And then I just, take another job and keep, you know, completely slamming the balance into the
Mhm.
ground. Um, so like Alberta, I probably did a little bit better because we had, a larger team and there's more resources, and you could truly say, okay, for digital team, like we need this, and tour team,
Yeah.
we need that, and scripting team, we need this, and then things would kind of flow. If I fast forward up to the next one in New Brunswick, where we had a much, more limited team,
Mhm.
smaller human resource pool, smaller financial pool to outsource things, for additional help and so on. I did an awful job. I came back from that one completely wrecked. It's taken me like that election was over in October. We're now what, 6 or 7 months past that, and I feel human again.
Yeah.
But it took like a serious
Mhm.
2, 3 months maybe. Like my health was
Mhm.
garbage. I was eating garbage. I was not exercising. I was up later than everybody, like sending emails
Mhm.
until I would fall asleep at night, and then I'd be the first one up sending. Like people would go to bed, and there would be emails that would show up for me after they went to bed, and then they would get an email from me before they woke up. So they would have emails at kind of like the 12 to 2 range, and then from like the 5:30 to like 7 range,
Mhm.
and I just came home wrecked. That's
Yeah.
all. So
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that you've heard a million times before, but I mean, you do need to, put some rest in there.
Yeah.
You have to understand that even though you may be the person that needs to say yes or no to a lot of things and need to check in. Try to create systems so that you're regularly in touch with people, so they're not coming to you sort of out of desperation when it's already too late. Um, you will not be more productive or effective if you just never sleep.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a campaign, and yes, you can do that for, your 30 days or whatever, a little bit, but even that 30 days is a long time to go,
Yeah.
eating nothing but pizza and never taking a walk out in the fresh air,
Yeah.
leaving the war room to jump in your car to go back to your hotel or apartment or your home or whatever to, get four
Yeah.
hours of sleep and then do it all again the next day.
You'll start
So
to slow down. I agree.
yeah, just a bit,
Yeah.
and that's not what your candidate needs. They need you to
Yeah.
be sharp. And again, in terms of practicing what you preach, like I'm not great at it when it comes to
Mhm.
breaks on campaigns because I tend to slide into 7 day a week, work schedules during a writ period. But I will tell all my other folks that they need to take a day off.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think, a day of rest for everybody. For some that comes, they have religious convictions or so on, that's fine. Others don't. I still say like just take the Saturday or the Sunday, like whatever it
Yeah.
is, and then just
Yeah.
because you will be more effective. So I'll tell that to everyone else. Will I do it? I'm not great at it.
Right. Oh yeah. So you've done this for a long time. How do you so what drives you when you're doing this? Is it the heat of the game? Is it the passion to make a difference? What gets you up until gets you up early in the morning and keeps you up until everyone else is asleep still
Yeah.
sending emails?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a combination of all those things. I mean, so like to begin with, yes, I am, despite being far more jaded now than I was when I started. I will
We're
say
all
that
jaded now.
Yeah.
we are, but I'll never stop believing that we can make a difference.
Yeah.
And so when you think that, who you elect matters, both in terms of the person, the individual, the leader, and then the party overall, because I don't think they grasp that all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
campaigns are won on, you've got your top 2 to 5 priorities and, maybe a big issue or something like that. But government is literally 1,000 decisions a day being
Yeah.
made that a party gets to go in there or individuals get to go in there, and you want the best people possible elected and in
Yeah.
those roles so they make good
Yep.
decisions, for Canadians or for residents of a province. And yeah, so I used to want to run. I used to want to be an MP.
Mhm.
And then I was around it long enough that I said, no, thank you. But I respect those who do put their name on the ballot, and I'd
Yeah.
like to help as many good people as I can try to win.
Totally.
So yeah, so there is that. Yeah, there is that competitive nature and just that, this is like sports for non-athletic people, like I can
Or show
you
business
are,
for ugly people, as they say.
yes, they say. And but you're tracking numbers, you're, looking at progress here, you're figuring out what's going on there. Um, there's strategy, there's shows of force, there's events, there's messaging, there's all these things that sort of all weave together, and so it is a fun challenge.
It's high
You
adrenaline, right? Like
Yeah.
you're breaking news, things are blowing up, good, bad, otherwise. It's like it is kind of it's a high every day. That's my experience.
There's also crushing lows. I mean, don't forget the
You're right.
crushing
There's
lows,
both.
but they
Yes.
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
do, but they are happening every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's those types of things, and I just think too. I mean, when you do something you enjoy, it's yeah, it's a great job, to be able to do. And again, never came looking to do this, and I'm not saying I'll do it
Yeah.
forever. I mean, I think I'll always be involved. I would think, somewhat in politics. The management side of it can get a bit draining. Like I said,
Yes.
Yeah.
we started, my wife and I, to go back to that conversation at Broadway's in Orleans in 2006, saying, yeah, we could do this for a year. And then realizing, basically I managed a campaign every year or been involved in a significant way in a campaign every year since it was like 2015,
Wow.
right? I
Yeah.
A
mean,
decade. Yeah.
and so every year and starting to think about, well, when are we going to go on vacation? Well, I'm not sure because fixed election dates don't mean a whole lot, and
No, they don't.
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
does start to get tiring for sure. But no, but I guess to answer directly, it's a combination of all those things. I mean, it's fun, it's enjoyable. I do love working with people. I love being parts of teams. I love
Mhm.
kind of seeing teams succeed and what they're doing. It's great to find people who are great at different things and just
Yeah.
let them go. And when you watch someone who can make videos the way that you do, or someone who's great at connecting with media, or someone who's a strong speech writer, produce their craft, and you're not the one who has to do it all. It really is. It's just a great experience to be part of.
Nice. So what you've been doing this for a long time. You say you told you tell us you're not going to be in it forever, but in 40 years when you're still doing this, you can
That's
we'll
right.
come back and and get you
Yeah.
on that. But look, so imagine, in this job, one of the things that we do at MASH is like we're worried about training that next person who's going to come up and do the job for us so that we can move on to the next step for ourselves. What's that like in your world? Like if someone came up to you and said like I want to be a campaign manager, like what kinds of things would you tell them that they have to have either as a part of their career or like part of their personality or mentality, like what things would they need to have in place to do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think in just a very practical sense, like we did start an organization called Right Recruiter,
Oh yeah.
where we do want to kind of offer training up for folks. And to be honest, I'd hope to have something in place perhaps before this, federal campaign that could have dovetailed with whatever the federal party, would have done, just to kind of help people get more trained and ready because people are always looking for campaign managers. So that's
Oh
the
yeah.
thing.
They are.
I mean, it's not predictable work, but what I've learned, since saying, "Oh, I'm done with politics now. The next election's in 4 years." I'm like, no, no, there's almost always an election.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, this year
somewhere.
alone, I mean, the federal, we've had Ontario, the Yukon election will be happening. Newfoundland and Labrador has to go to the
Yeah.
polls this year. There's municipal elections coming up in Alberta. Like, there's always stuff. So we are looking at kind of creating a training program for folks who are interested in doing that, just to kind of you know help give them the tools they need. And the tools that they need, I guess, it varies because like everyone will be a slightly different campaign manager because everyone's
Sure.
wired slightly differently. But in general, you need to have some skills with people. You have to be able to, be able to talk and communicate and give
Resolve
direction
conflict.
and hear the feedback and the concerns, and then sometimes just push past that and say, I hear what you're saying, but this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
So you need to have, those people skills. You also need to understand all the components of the campaign. You don't need to be the expert at them. You just need to know, is someone working on the get out the vote plan? Is someone working on voter ID? Like, are you the person who's in charge of voter ID? Because I mean, certainly in local campaigns, campaign managers, there's a big
Yeah.
difference between having a team for a national leadership versus, um, running a local campaign where you might have, one, two to three, faithful people who are coming in as volunteers, and
Yeah.
that's your crew. So need to understand the different parts. You need to have that people management skill. There is a communications role for sure, and making sure that people understand what's happening and why things are needed at this time or that time. Organizational skills of understanding the sequence. Like I have to make sure that these things are off to the printers. Because they need 5 days to turn around the door hangers that we want to put up. Like you,
Hmm.
um, thinking through those steps. So someone who's able to kind of effectively project manage,
Yeah.
is good. Someone who's also empathetic and willing to listen to the candidate, but also that stern and say, "Yeah, I understand. This is tough, and now I just need you to get back out there. Now that you've been
Yeah.
able to say, I need you to get back out there and knock some more doors."
Yeah.
So it's a matter of staying focused on what's important because there's so many distractions that come up. And I
Yeah.
think that people get their views of politics from whatever they watch House of Cards, they watch West Wing, they all the these
Yeah.
big events and big this and everything's big, and you know they don't they don't show the shots of you sitting in a a broken down office with a bathroom that barely works next to a
Classic. Yeah.
Pizza Hut with you sticking labels on door hangers on
Mhm.
7 o'clock on Sunday night, the day before an election, because you just need to make sure these things are ready.
Yeah.
So,
Well, can
but
I
you
just
need
say
to
it
have
like,
sort of that focus.
yeah, like a lot of it's very practical what you need to do. Like there's some
Totally.
skills, but it's like a lot of it's like list building, database management,
Yeah.
collecting people, getting them out together, printing off sheets to door knock. Like there's so many
Yeah.
little things to do. And I think, the one thing we talked about beforehand, Steve, is or I guess even earlier today, you felt like you weren't ready, even though you had a lot of
Mhm.
communication skills and probably everything you needed to be a campaign manager. So can you give people some perspective of you don't need to have national Steve Outhouse like experience to do this. It's you should
Yeah.
start at a
Yeah.
campaign, talk to someone like you or someone else that's done it before, and go make a difference. You can make a big difference from being a campaign manager for someone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you want that national level experience, I truly believe it will come because this is not, I mean, there are not thousands and thousands of people clamoring to get, oddly enough,
Oh,
to
we're
get
out
into
of
this
shock.
line of
Oh,
work.
geez. Yeah.
Yeah, the way I
Suckers
described it,
for
you think they'd
punishment.
be all over it.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned my friend Dan White earlier, and when he sat me down, and I was like, of course, I'm thinking about all the stuff, and he just said, identify your supporters, get them out to vote.
Yeah.
Identify your supporters, get them out to vote. Fundraise so you can identify more supporters
Yeah,
and get them out to vote. Fundraise, and it was like these three things over and over and over again. And that's ultimately what it boils down to. If you do nothing else as a campaign manager, if you keep your candidate out on the doors,
Yeah.
where he or she can, talk to people, identify supporters. You have a system in place where all that information is going in centrally, so that when it is time to get them out to vote, you can go remind them to vote. You can call them to vote. You can text them to vote. You can go knock on their door. I mean, that's at its core what it is. I mean, there's of course
it
there's
is.
other parts to that of making sure
Oh,
that if
yeah.
there's local debates that you're prepared and making sure you have your messages lined up and all those things. But again, your main objective really boils down to that. So once you say, am I doing that every day? Is that getting done? Anytime a volunteer, and anytime a volunteer comes in, that's the other thing. Sometimes campaign managers get so stuck trying to get everything done that a potential volunteer comes in and they'll be like, I don't know if I can trust this person or what.
Yeah.
Just get them involved,
Yeah.
Somewhere.
find
Yeah.
but the problem sometimes we have as volunteers, they come in and they want to be a strategist and they just want to kind of sit around. I mean, we hear this phrase all the time, like they want to come and sit around the table and talk about all these ways that your candidate can say brilliant things. And,
Right.
you know, uh, they say things like, oh, all we need to do is win like this neighborhood. And I'm like, perfect. Will you go help us door knock in that neighborhood? It's like, no, I just like to talk about it. So
I know.
anytime someone comes in who's willing to actually do the work of helping identify supporters or get them out to vote, get them plugged in quickly.
Yeah. Feed them pizza. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feed them well. I
Feed them.
think that's the other thing. When I've been on good campaigns, they have good food for everyone. I think that's
Yeah.
important. I don't know why. I
Yeah.
always think that's a big deal. Uh,
Well, I
so
think
here's
it's a small thing, but it's an important thing because
it
it
is. It's
shows
very
you
important.
value the people who are coming in.
Yeah.
We would have fun, like we would go, like to Costco and buy, stupid amounts of snacks to bring them to my first one in Orleans. And you know what? Eating those Welch's fruit snacks things that
Energy.
kids love in their lunch boxes, like you tell me some staffer in their young 20s doesn't want those as well. Like they did. In fact, some of them, the more they came back, the more you could find, oh, they always like, energy, like Monster energy drinks or whatever. So you have those there, or you would next to the defibrillator. And then you would have the
Yeah.
the fruit snacks or the granola bars, or there are some people who, good on them, want fruit when they come in. Like, okay, can we have some apples or something that's here? And, most of them will rot, but this person will be happy.
Mhm.
So it just shows that you're watching, you're appreciating the volunteers that are there, as opposed to running this, just really strict, okay,
Mhm.
get in, get out. I mean, you don't want people to be sitting in there and doing nothing for an hour. But at the
No.
end of the night, when they're done door knocking and they want to come back in, I think it's a great time for people to socialize and hang out, and it
Yeah.
builds the team. And little things like, where we would pay for an Uber for someone to go home instead of them having to navigate the bus for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, those little things show volunteers you value them.
I agree. The camaraderie is really important in campaigns, and it makes
Totally.
people want to come back, get involved, get
Yeah.
excited, and yeah, but part of being part of a campaign is just the fun and connections you make as part of it. Like you're making a difference. You meet all sorts of interesting people. Like so many people I work with today that it's like I never would have met or became friends with if it wasn't for campaigns. So I think that's a big
Totally.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any quick experiences with that, Steve? Probably
Well,
too
maybe
many.
the real election win is the friends we've made along the way, Derek, I guess.
There it is. That is
Uh,
the classic
Put that on a
line.
t-shirt, some mugs.
Yeah, you were just like
yeah,
Derek. You're such a softie on all this.
yeah. No, it's absolutely true, and that's the thing too. Like these relationships that you build, kind of going through the fire of. I actually have like little coins. I could dig one out if I thought about it in advance. It sort of says, like there's no. It was no fire that greater than one that's been forged in the fire of a dumpster fire or something like that, and
That's good.
no metal that's stronger than that that's forged in a dumpster fire.
That's
And
right.
the
100%.
it like you go through these things. I mean, certainly a lot of the folks out in Alberta I met for the first time when I was there, and yeah, now I consider them good friends, and we keep up, and even if it's just a jokey text from time to time, or we see something in the media that reminds us of kind of the day we went through when.
Yeah.
And again, ironically, it's often not the days. The days weren't, the ones that create the bonds and the memories are not necessarily the highs and the victory of,
Yes.
this happened and we were victorious, and now you will be special for me forever. It's when like two of you are sitting at your computer going, all right, what do we say in response to this media call right now?
Mhm.
We do not know. Did the candidate really, or did they mean that, or what's our approach? And that's, yeah, friendships are forged in that, and it does. I mean, it means a lot.
The other thing I was going to say, and I know we got to go, we're short of time here, but is I think people can get involved even if you're not a full-time campaigner. Like I think you
Yeah.
can
Oh,
run
yeah.
a local nomination campaign for someone. You can run an
Yeah.
MLA, MP campaign for someone.
City council,
City count, like
anything.
it's an amazing way. You don't have to run. It's like if you want to run, great. We'll help you run. Running is very
Yeah.
important. But it's like if you don't want to run and you're an organized person and you like people to some level, it's like please be a campaign manager. We need you.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think there are ways that you can, if you can build the team properly, um, it doesn't have to be all consuming 24/7, especially in the lead up to the RIP period.
Right.
During the RIP period, it's very
Yes.
difficult to have a balance. Like I think you need to understand that that's what you're signing up
Going
for,
to be a
and this
grind.
will
Yeah.
be your main thing. But in the months leading up to it, especially if you really get it down to a focus of, okay, here's our riding and here's how many people are in our riding. And if we want to try to get through, X number of doors in that period of time, that means the candidate needs to be out this many hours a week and doing
Yeah.
this. And here, let's get him or her organized so that we can do this. And they've got their lit pieces and we got our system set up. Like you can set up those systems and actually have some sort of balance.
Mhm.
People like me though, it's tough. Like you jump, like, and now that that's in place, how about I try to make this happen and that happen as well? But for sure, does not need to be like not everyone's going to do this full time, for sure. And when we are in Canada, like let's be honest, the economics of campaigning are different here than
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
we read about or see in the States. Like I went to a conference in Washington and they showed their radio ads during the midterms of whatever that was, 2022, maybe. I mean,
Mhm.
their radio ad budget was larger than what our federal parties can spend on a national campaign. And oh yeah, radio ads for one state. One state. Like
Jeez.
I mean, it's completely different. So you can match up, and you don't have to manage, be the campaign manager proper. You can
Yeah.
say, I'd like to get out the vote side, or I'd like to take
Yeah.
on the voter ID side. I got to help on the leadership race for Tony Wakeham, who won in Newfoundland and Labrador on the PCs.
Oh, nice.
and they'll be running for, in the next campaign to be premier there. And we'll see, eager to help there as well as possible.
Mhm.
And but in that campaign, my colleague, Josh Seneker and I, we ran the data, and it was sort of like, okay, here's the list of supporters, and let's go get these folks out to vote in the final weeks, and help with the ID and make sure everything was tracked properly. Like, if you're great at managing data and managing databases and so on, like, there's so much work that you can do,
Oh yeah.
and you can kind of do it in your spare time and so on. And it was really good to just focus on that one area, because when you are a campaign manager, you have to deal, with volunteers are coming in and they want to talk to you, and the candidate needs to talk to you, and the public needs to speak to you, and there's a whole bunch of things.
So it sounds like it's been an exciting career for you, all in all.
It has not been boring. Not
Never
one day.
boring.
Yeah.
Never boring. That's great. Well, thank you very much, Steve. We know we're coming up against the clock here. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to talk with us about this.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
Remember, everybody, justcampaigns.ca. You can hire Steve yourself for your next big campaign, whatever it might be. And yeah, we'll see you again soon, I'm sure, Steve.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Derek.
Thanks, Steve. I feel like we could have talked for a lot longer. You have a lot of wisdom to share there. So maybe we're going to bring you back on for a follow-up session. If you want a follow-up session from Steve, let us know. And I think we can probably twist his arm. I'm not.
Oh, I'm
Can
sure,
I,
yeah.
can I tell them to smash the like button? I
Just-
hear that.
Yeah, please
Smash the
do.
like button.
Like,
Subscribe.
subscribe, smash
Tell
that
all
like
your
button.
friends.
Something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. Well, take
Hey,
care,
thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
good day.
Thanks, Steve.